If only we could learn to live beyond our own interest. Paul, it's a very interesting statement. Paul said that we should view others, imagine this, we should view all others as being better than ourselves. That's his definition of humility. You know, we've had about 2 generations in America where we're taught that almost nothing is more important than self-esteem. There's a lady that I see on the news over and over who is probably making millions on her new book. The name of the book is called Lean In. And rightly so, she is pointing out that women have been discriminated against for years in business and nearly all phases of life. And she's telling women how to be a bit more pushy, how to be more assertive, and to get what they've always had coming. I remember in high school those lectures about self-esteem, how important it was to have self-esteem, to love oneself. Is there a conflict there? Paul's definition of humility: view everyone as better than you. Paul, when he sends this admonition to the Philippians, does so in such a way, I don't think that letter, when received, was offensive. I don't think they felt chastised. Paul's not saying, he's not implying in any way that you people, you Philippian Christians, aren't sincere in your faith and the way you live it. He's calling on them to mature in their faith, to keep moving toward the example that Jesus set. There is and I think Fred is still alive. Fred Craddock is recognized as probably the best preacher in America. He is a gifted public speaker. I have several of his books on preaching. He has an incredible analytical mind. And Fred's interpretation of what Paul said, and I'll read it to you right out of his book. He says Paul lifts the conscious level of those qualities of common life by which the church has been identified and sustained. He added that by not laying a guilt trip on the Philippians regarding whatever failure in unity there was among them, Paul is able to nourish his exhortation with the most unused resource in the church: who the members are and what they already know. It would be a big mistake to stand at the pulpit week after week and tell your congregation that they're just not good enough. Sometimes we get the feeling that we go to church and that by its very nature, preaching is telling us over and over that we're missing the mark, that we're not good enough. And there's another phase to that there is this implied message: do better or else. Now, there are times when a message like that is probably appropriate. But the fact of the matter is, like old Fred said, most people who come here on Sunday mornings, for the most part, come for the right reasons, and most are very decent people who don't need to be chastised. They need to be praised. So most of the time, coming to church, when we come to worship, when we're singing and we're praying and we're studying with other Christians, this should be a time of not scolding, certainly not coming from me, not scolding fellow Christians, but because of our humility, Paul says, the kind of humility that regards other people as better than ourselves. Let's remember that even when we fail, and we're going to fail, we're going to make mistakes daily. Just because we fail doesn't mean that we've abandoned our commitment and our desire to be the best Christians that we can be. A couple of years ago, I don't know if it was a gift, but I came into possession the biography of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And what a book. If you don't know the story, you know that he had the courage to stand up against Hitler when Hitler took over the church in Germany, and using fear and intimidation got most German theologians to at least pretend to agree with him. Bonhoeffer never changed his message of what was right and wrong, and on every turn he stood up to the Nazis. And if you know Mr. Bonhoeffer, you know that just before the Allies conquered Germany, Hitler had him executed anyway. He'd been in prison for a long time. He was an incredible writer, an incredible theologian. And to summarize what he had to say that applies here, he said there is probably nothing greater than the unity that comes, the wonderful feeling that comes with worshiping with other Christians. He points out that around the world, some people don't have that privilege. You know, there's the poor Christian missionaries that go off to foreign lands and they don't assemble like this on Sunday morning. I can tell you, after spending 25 years working in prisons, the privilege of worshiping with like-minded Christians is one that they don't know. When the people of God come together to share their lives openly and freely, accept one another as we are, there's kind of a spiritual chemistry that emerges. There's that delightful sense of belonging. Now, not every congregational, not every church service is going to be a delightful thing. And not everything we do is going to give us that wonderful, warm sense of belonging. But we should always be striving and always be moving in that direction. Remembering, of course, that we don't always get it right, but we always keep trying. So what about the year 2114? 100 years from now. It's highly unlikely that anyone in this group today is going to be around in 100 years, including the baby and the toddlers. But I'll say it again, it's also highly unlikely that human nature would be changed a great deal. Humans seem to have that tendency to be selfish. Those things that those undesirable sinful characteristics that we possess will still be a part of the human spirit 100 years from now. Those things that divide and mess up congregations will be dividing and messing up congregations in 100 years. But our concern isn't for what happens in 100 years from now, it's what happens today in 2014. So let's make it a goal for the rest of this year, and hopefully for many years beyond, to work for the sake of Jesus Christ, to strive to live in unity, always living together with our fellow Christians, with our neighbors, in humility and gratitude for their presence. And as Mr. Bonhoeffer said, he said this about worshiping with fellow Christians in an assembly like this. He said, their presence is a source of incomparable joy and strength to the believer. I hope we always see the freedom to worship, and we always see one another as a blessing. Would you join me in our call to worship? And you will this printed in our bulletin. What a day for celebration. What a day to rejoice. The Spirit of God. I'm on the wrong page. I'm sorry, folks. Almighty God, you gave us your firstborn Son, that we might follow him to eternal life. Instead, we continue to betray and neglect. You call us your children, yet we are ungrateful and take your gifts for granted. You give us each other as sisters and brothers, and we wage war within our own household. Forgive us, Lord, and teach us the true meaning of family. Help us to love all your children and to treat others with peace and justice we learn from you. Amen. Our last song today, number 45, Precious Lord.